Well met, traveler, and thank you for stopping into my little outpost on the ethereal plane of the internets. My name is Johnny King, and I'm also known as Cerulean Rex, which of course is my nom de jeu, my gaming name, and my gamer tag, if that's your vernacular. So, I am making this my first YouTube video, sort of getting my feet wet, talking about the things that I like to talk about, which my passion is for games. Now, I do like, of course, video games, board games, war games, but my real passion is role-playing games of the tabletop variety, and most especially fantasy RPGs. And of course, can't talk about any of that without talking about the greatest of them, the granddaddy of them all, Dungeons and Dragons. And this is a very special time to be talking about D&D, as we'll address here in just a moment. As this is the first, and there's no history really built up for my channel, and if you're seeing this, I have to ask, why? So, whatever it is that caused the mystic lords of the algorithm to put this video in your path to click on today, I cannot begin to imagine. These are the deeper mysteries that need to be pondered by wiser YouTube heads than mine. But at least here we are, and I'm glad you're here. In keeping this introduction still fairly brief, I want to say, firstly, I'm a geek, especially about role-playing games. RPGs are a special thing. We have, every single one of us, lived during or close to a time when there has been invented an entirely new type of game. And that would be in the mid-1960s, late 1960s, early 70s. It sort of bleeds through those years. When I say an entirely new, it's hard to describe how important that event is, to be honest with you. Prior to that, there were basically 6 types of games in the world. And for the first time in a very, very, very long time, someone has created a new type of game. In the history of the world, you can go back 1,000 years and you're not going to find anything like the role-playing game. Except for maybe the pretending play forms of children playing pretend. It's similar, but it's not the same thing. To quote my friend Paul Stormberg, as he said in the podcast When We Were Wizards, that's really no exaggeration, because in the history of gaming, you've got 6 basic types of games. There's dice, card games, tile games, board games like chess, miniature games, pen and paper games. And the roots of some of these types of games go back over 1,000 years. And here, this is an entirely different gaming experience that draws from fantasy, history, and collaborative imagination, most importantly. Now, Paul's quote here is important. It illustrates something that I think is salient if you want to know where role-playing games exist on the landscape of historical events in terms of games. It's that last bit really, that's the most important part, the collaborative imagination. Dave Arneson really conceived of something new, a cooperative game. I believe it's this element, when coupled with shared imagination, that really sets the type of game apart from all others. It's the building of these shared conceptual realities that sets people's minds ablaze with excitement and creativity and keeps them coming back to the table. There's really nothing else quite like RPGs. And what is really interesting is when you start looking around you in today's modern world for the influence of role-playing games. If you look around, you will see it just about everywhere in today's life. It's really interesting when you start to think about it. Things like airline miles, rewards programs, the structure of modern video games, the functional experience of social media, basically anything where you level up, the more you participate, it's all influenced by role-playing games. And most especially by the first of them, the Ds, Dungeons and Dragons. And this brings me to the love of D&D. The love of D&D, its offshoots, its variants, its imitators, some of which are really quite good, are the things that I want to talk about here in this channel going forward. I may show different things around that. Techniques, artistic techniques, game mastering techniques, playing techniques, the history of the game, going backward and forward, and how the past relates to the present, how the present relates to the past. It's this love of role-playing games that's actually driving me to make this video, to do this, to talk about the phenomena of role-playing games themselves. And it's also a love that I share with a great host of other people, some of whom are already very accomplished content creators right here on YouTube. I think they experience the same thing. It's a need to create around gaming and the hobby. It drives me like it drives so many others. And that's really kind of the phenomenal thing. The things we do for this game, for each other, hell, even the arguments we have with each other about it, it really is all to show what it means to us. It's because this game has marked us. It's a thing we've each grown from in so many ways. We all seek to differentiate ourselves one from the other in our love of tabletop role-playing games. Mostly, though, we end up showing exactly how we're all the same. It's truly an amazing thing. And now, here we are in 2024, marking the 50th anniversary of the creation of Dungeons and Dragons. I might be a few days behind the anniversary or a few days ahead. I might be right on it. It kind of all depends on who you talk to. We do know that in 1974, it being the first printing of the game, happened between very late January and mid-February. So I feel like I'm not too late to say happy birthday to the world's greatest and first role-playing game. So, brothers and sisters, veterans of 1,000,000 campaigns, I salute you. This year is a time to celebrate. And like so many of you brothers and sisters, I will be honoring this anniversary with gameplay. Come mid-March, I intend to be in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, the birthplace of D&D, at a convention, the first of which, that is called Founders and Legends. And it is honoring those individuals who were instrumental in bringing role-playing games to life. And I'll also be attending GaryCon XVI the following week, also in Lake Geneva. Cheers, Lake Geneva. And I'll be running a scenario that I've written that will honor Gygax, Arneson, and many other founders and legends who were there at the dawning of this new concept in games. Entitled The Captain and the Toymaker, a Founder's Legend, it's going to touch on those very special moments in history. And as such, it's going to use both original D&D and rules and Proto D&D rules. These rules as penned by avid D&D historian D.H. Boggs, which can be found, these rules, in the book The Lost Dungeons of Tonnisborg by original dungeon creator Greg Svensson, the great Svenny, if you know him. The dungeon in the book, incidentally, a little bit older than D&D itself. At any rate, these gentlemen put this book together along with Griffith Morgan III of the Fellowship of the Thing, and I've got a link down below to where this book can be found in case you're interested. It was a very limited print run, but I've recently heard there may be some copies still to be had in hardcover. Maybe not. It's kind of hard to say at this date, but it is mid-February. And I believe there are still some soft covers left as well, if you're interested in that. So I will say this. If you're coming to Lake Geneva, grab an event ticket for the Captain of the Toymaker, if you're so inclined. I believe, my friend, it is going to be a game to remember. Have you stuck with me this far? Well, then thanks. Seriously. Though the nature of my channel content may meander for a bit while I'm dialing things in, I do graciously invite you to give me a follow and to ring the bell, and maybe we'll see how this thing turns out together. This has been Cerulean Rex, signing off and saying, under command of King, play on.